Welcome everyone. This session is integrating diverse digital data and stories of success. Digital data is pouring into the energy sector, but many organizations still face questions about how to truly integrate data. This session dives into the stories of 3 retail electric providers leveraging their diverse data to deliver what's next in energy. So my name is Cade Burks. I'm Chief Digital Officer at Big Data Energy, and I'm also the Vice Chair of the North American Energy Standards Board, NASB. So I wanted to start off with an image of about 10 years ago at my house where we had meter readers. So I live in Houston, and so once a month, here came the meter reader, jumped over the fence, got the meter read, and then jumped back over the fence and ran to the next place. And so one meter read a month. And so today we all have smart meters in Houston. We get 2,880 interval reads a day now. So we went from 1 meter read to 2,880. So, but the reason I mention that is, but it's really a small amount of increase compared to what's going to happen over the next 10 years, I believe. So a lot of the edge devices are going to make an exponential amount of data growth there. And so when I say edge devices, I'm meaning the certainly on the wholesale side, that would be the solar, community solar, DER, advanced or automated demand response, storage, all of that on the wholesale side. But on the consumer side, we've got the smart thermostats, the solar, rooftop solar, smart homes, EV, storage. And so we're also evolving, of course, from being consumers or ratepayers, as you've heard from some other utilities maybe, to prosumers. So we're going to be producing a lot of electricity. Other things like transactive energy, blockchain, all those are going to also generate data. So that's sort of the basis for our session today. I've got a great panel here, and I'm going to go through and introduce everyone. But when I introduce you, if we could go through and talk about, give you a little background. One of the themes is also how you got started into energy, if you want to go into that, where you are with your company. As I go through, let's see, and I'll start, first card. Jay Lewis he is president and co-CEO of Just Energy. And Jay and I have known each other a long time, back from the Enron days. And one of my most memorable moments with Jay from a business perspective was seeing he and his co-CEO, Deb Merrill, sitting in a single office kind of conference room, starting Just Energy with 4 or 5 folks in the room. And now, of course, they're a multinational, publicly traded company. And so with that, Jay, if you'd like to start.
Thank you, Cade. Well, as Cade said, my name is Jay Lewis. I'm co-CEO and president of Just Energy. We are a global company. We're in 6 countries today. We're about $4 billion, a little over 2 million customers there. And I agree with Cade. I think today, the transformation that's going on in the energy industry is really exciting. For me, what got me into space, it's now my 21st year, I think, in energy space. I got into this space because I thought it was going to be the new dynamic industry similar to telecom. So telecom deregulated for folks who've been around in 1984 with the Bell breakup. And I felt like energy, electricity was going to be that next big area where you're going to see a lot of change coming forward. And I think today you're seeing that change happen today. I think 21 years ago, it was a promise. And today you're seeing the actualization of that promise today. So that's my 2 cents there.
Yeah, and what got you interested in the energy space? Or?
I love competition. I think competition brings out the best. I think when you think about innovation, it's hard to innovate in a monopoly setting. That's my view. I think when you look at what's happened in the telephone space, and there was an article probably a year ago that talked about all the things that the cell phone has gotten rid of, like your calculators, flashlights, and things like that. I think energy is on the cusp. I think when Cade just talked about a lot of the data, when you start hearing about appliances talking back to a centralized place, thermostats talking back, you have, localized storage devices where you can plug it into a wall and, that circuit could be on a backup system there, storing and, utilizing power at different times to optimize. to me, that's exciting about the space. And so that's really what continues to get me excited and motivated every day about our industry today.
All right. Thanks, Jay. Next, I have Kevin Boudreaux. Kevin is Vice President of Solar Operations with MP2 Energy, which was just purchased last year by Shell. So Kevin and I have known each other for a long time, back probably from the days we worked at Calpine, and some of the more enjoyable future energy discussions we've had have been over a beer. And I can tell you that after 2 beers, the future looks very bright. So it's he's also like the Navy veteran, so I'd like to thank him for his service. And so, Kevin, if you give us some background.
Thank you, Cade. As Cade said, our company is MP2 Energy. I run all the emerging technologies for MP2 Energy, specifically focused right now on solar, battery storage, demand response, things of that nature. Shell Energy North America recently acquired MP2 Energy, so of course that brings a lot of benefits and a lot of other things that we're looking at, new markets, new technologies, things of that nature. My background spans 20 years, like Jay. Started kind of a fluke. A friend of a friend got me involved in a natural gas storage project out in California and didn't know anything about the industry. I knew energy from an oil and gas perspective, grew up in the oil field services industry. So once I got in there, just looked at everything and saw all the potential to create new products and just all the opportunity involved in energy from not just a non-oil and gas perspective. Friend came up and said, hey, they got this new company out there called Enron, and I think you would enjoy working there. So went over there, and that just changed the world for me, right? I mean, smartest people in the world were out there creating all these new dynamics, building the markets. Of course, everybody knows what happened with Enron. And went over to Calpine, a large independent power producer. They had a bunch of natural gas storage generation in California. We started building new products around tolling arrangements. I knew a bunch of customers from the Enron days that could serve well, and so that became a nice thing. Started their energy services division as well, helped out other people that wanted to build storage and natural gas fired generation in the market, helped them bring that to market. And then from there, I went to smaller companies, helped them integrate into new markets, and MP2 was one of them. They called up and said, hey, I knew me and Matt Adams, the president, worked at Calpine together, and he called up and said, we're going into solar. I said, I'm in. So that's kind of the background. And as I said, what interests me is the products, the ability to go and create new products, pull in the data sources, get the customers involved, all the market participants out there, and find ways to provide value to the customer. That's my main interest with it.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. Next, I have John Werner. He is CEO of GridPlus. And John and I have known each other, I guess, since he was president of Source Power. And so, but one of the most memorable times I know with John is we were sitting in some ERCOT working groups over in Austin, or over here. And so he would ask, why does the Smart Meter Texas data not match the ERCOT settlement data, and then that not tied to the monthly invoicing deal? So got a lot of conversation around that. And I think it wasn't too long after that they put you on the board at ERCOT, so that you so he, and John is also a lawyer by trade. So John?
Thank you, Cade. John Werner, CEO, GridPlus. My background, practiced for about 15 years or so, and then I got into the energy business as a lawyer, and practiced for 7, 8, 9 years in-house, and I took my lawyer hat off and got involved in the commercial side of the business. So been with the big boys, been with some of the small guys, and actually this is the second company that I'm starting from ground up. Source Power and Gas, I started about 7.5 years ago, sold it, and now I'm involved in GridPlus. GridPlus, I'm employee number 1 as far as the retailer is concerned. But the big driver for me to join GridPlus was the fact that GridPlus, the parent company, is really a technology company. And very important to me. I've watched over the last 16.5 years the evolvement, if you will, of the business In the beginning, there's 8 or 9 work groups within any company, and everyone had their own database. It was called Excel, and it was kind of messy. We'd show up in meetings, and everyone thought they had the answer, and none of the answers matched. So over time, we've gotten better, needless to say, a lot of systems out there. But I don't believe that we have completed the paradigm shift that the legislature envisioned since 1999, and that's basically load being 100% inelastic and getting it to the point where it is elastic and it is a market participant and it is able to speak to the market. So GridPlus is inserting itself into the middle of that, and I'm the lucky one to make it happen, I hope.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, before I get into any of the really serious questions, there's one question I got to ask you that we didn't rehearse. So not to put y'all on the spot, but Austin is weird. So, Kevin, what's your favorite band?
My favorite band?
Your favorite band or musician?
Well, I love blues, so probably Buddy Guy.
Very good. Jay?
Today, probably Chris Stapleton right now.
Ah, very good. John?
Old Dominion.
Old Dominion, okay. I think I'll go, mine is probably Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers,
Nice,
so, from back in the day, so. Anyway, so now on to the more serious questions here. So Centrica, I'll do a press release here. Centrica recently stated its panoramic power has 53,000 sensors deployed across more than 1,800 sites on 30 countries and are collecting around 14 billion data points a month. It has proved successful in changing the dynamic of the conversation with customers and provides opportunities to cross-sell energy optimization and solution services. So the question to start off with were, what are some of the products and services that are driven by access to this massive amounts of timely, and again I'll emphasize timely data. So anyone would like to start?
Sure.
John?
So what hasn't happened with the paradigm shift? Smart meter Texas data, for example. The idea was to have access to 15-minute data, and we do, no doubt about it. Midnight, every night it's posted. Problem with that is it's not posted real time, which is what is going to drive the innovation that I think the lawmakers envision. So once you start driving to a 15-minute world, it changes everything about a rep, the way you bill or the way you price, the way you manage your position, the way you bill, the way you settle. And if we're successful, I believe we will be, all of those things are going to change, and it will stress a lot of systems. But in terms of products, it allows even residential users to see and experience real-time products, index products, day-ahead products, even fixed-price products. But with a 15-minute data, real-time, it will allow them to better react to market conditions, whether it be price or constraints on the grid. And over time, I think that's what you're going to start seeing. Load responding.
Inelastic. Gotcha.
Inelastic.
Gotcha.
There you go.
Thank you. Jay?
One of the things that we've seen when you get that access to that data, one of the products that's been out there is like fault detection. So you get this data now, it shows up, so whether you're getting it from the thermostat or from the 15-minute data, it allows you in advance. So instead of coming home and knowing that your house is hot because your air conditioning went off and stopped working, you get that alert. And then with that alert, you can sort of alert your customer, hey, we see there's something going on in your house. Your set point's been set at 72 and it hasn't gone down for 3 hours or 4 hours there. Do you want us to send somebody out there? That's a nice thing versus getting home and finding that surprise there. Also, what you can do is sort of see if the equipment is running optimally. Do you need to have a tune-up on your HVAC or your furnace there? Do you need to change out the air filter? One of the simplest things that people don't do is change out their air filters. So having access to this data is important, and that's just the first step. You're hearing about refrigerators and other things being tied back and getting that data back. So to be able to say, hey, how many people have vacuum underneath the refrigerator to make sure that that dust is not settling there, so your refrigerator is optimized correctly. I think for me, here's a real life example that happened. My kids decided to leave the door open, and so you got the air conditioning going. And I'm like, oh, I get an alert. And so I'm at work and I call up and say, hey, what's going on? Is the air conditioner not working? And they're like, no, we think it did. We hear it going. And I'm like, oh, sorry, Dad, we left the door open. Okay. So things like that, I think, you're seeing more of today with access to data points like you mentioned.
Just kind of jumping off where Jay left off, it's from a pricing perspective, the products, so, customers want transparency. They want to see what's going on. It's not necessarily about lowest price, but whether it's a time of use product or an index real-time product, or maybe even a monthly fee type product where your margins are transparent. That's what customers are looking for. I mean, there's hundreds of plans out there where you can't even someone who knows the industry, you can't sort through those effectively. So I think that's mostly what we hear. And, outside of that, it's really, it's all the new stuff that's coming into the market. It's solar net metering, it's rooftop solar, and crediting back either through a net metering product or some other product, some value concept, right? It's storage and how do you deploy it? And it's all the things that tie into it, tying into the inverters to get the real-time information, right? You don't, it's not revenue grade like the smart meters are, but it's very close. So you can pull that in, you can pull all the information coming from storage technologies, and you can start making, once you get a portfolio behind you, start making assumptions and build new products off of that. So that's kind of what we're focused on.
Yeah, thank you very much. So with all this massive amount of data and this exponential growth of all that data, and a lot of the activities are around people who, I guess, get a bill maybe once a month, or maybe they're looking at websites or something like that. How do you go through or approach integrating all this data into the organization? So I think my question would be, what are the challenges of integrating the exponentially growing amount of data into these new products and services? So
I'll start off. Well, in Texas, like you mentioned, most of us have smart meters. And one of the things this past January was extremely cold. One of the nice things that's helped out for us is that we send out weekly emails. So we give customers a weekly email on here's your usage and here's a forecast of the usage. And the idea behind that was that it was going to help, for exactly these types of events where you have extreme cold weather coming up. And what we did see, we saw customers call up, but at least they had some insight. We were able to say, when you get those emails, they were able to show you, thank you very much. We appreciate that. We still don't like our bill went up, 30% or so, but it did give them, an early indication of what was coming. And then you might sell them other products. Hey, can I sell you this home warranty program? Can I sell you this tune-up program or so forth? Can I sell you a home insulation kit? Those are things that are nice when you start seeing that amount of data coming to it. And that's just the beginning. I think you'll see more and more types of opportunities from having access to that data going forward.
Interesting. You mentioned earlier the figuring out that the air filters needed to be changed, but delivering air filters as part of a service has probably some additional challenges and things of that nature. How do you do those kind of services? You mentioned the other ones. So. Well,
we have an air filter service where we'll send out air filters, and the difficulty, if you go to your grocery store, you see the air filters or Home Depot, those blue ones are 60 cents, right? So if you're sending out 60 cents air filters, that's not going to work. So you got to send out the high quality air filters. And I'll give you the interesting. I grew up in the Northeast, but when I got to Texas 20 years ago, I bought a house, and I didn't realize that I had an air filter in my attic. There's a media filter, the 4-inch wide, 20 by 25, so 7 years later, my air condition breaks. I got to get a new air condition, and the guy comes to the house. He says, "Hey, how often do you change the filter?" I'm like, "Well, the ones that I can see, I change them out every 30 days." He's like, "What about the one in the attic?" I'm like, "What do you mean the one in the attic? I never knew there was one in the attic." That shows you how smart I was. So you take it out and it's like pitch black there. But I think just simple things like that. So now we have a service, helps people remember to change out the air filters. But the biggest thing you'll see, people will stop the service because they forget to change it. They have it, they have the box, but they don't want to go up in the attic or they forgot, and so they stop because they have one every quarter. So we've been able to do a better job of helping them, remind them, change out the filter because they can't see the impact. As Kevin was talking about, seeing the real-time impact. When you think about it, if your bill goes up $1 or $2 a month because you haven't changed the air filter, you don't notice it because it could be because of weather, it could be because of a different billing cycle. Now, if we can see the impact of, hey, you haven't changed your filter. Oh, wow, you can tell? Yes, because your air conditioner is running more, working harder. Those are things that, you can sort of offer those services and products. Because from our experience, we care about pricing, but our experience, consumers want the lights to come on, the furnace to work, the conditioned air, as we used to talk about 20 years ago. That's really what they care about. And we're able to deliver that more so today than we were in the past.
Very good. Thanks, Jay. Good example. Kevin?
Yeah, sure. The biggest thing is the inconsistency of the data for us, right? So you were talking about John doing the reconciliation process. I mean, that is something that we're looking at pretty aggressively right now. It's across all markets. There's really no true north, right, for any of this stuff. It's PSEG does it differently than Centerpoint. The SMT portal does it differently than ERCOT settlement. So it's really trying to get a handle on how all that comes in. What does it look like? How can you action the data? We spend probably, the majority, 80% of our time processing data. So you got to get to a point where you can action it, where you can actually utilize it. But to do that, you got to get comfortable. So it's a balance between doing, really looking at how to do it and not going overboard and getting paralyzed doing the analysis. So that's one of the big things for us right now is getting comfortable with the data and then making it actionable and putting plans in place to really go build new programs for customers across all markets.
Thank you, Kevin. John, do you have something to add?
A little bit. So I think the question involved data. What do we do with it?
Yeah, the question was, what are the challenges of integrating an exponentially growing amount of data into new products and services?
Right. So fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, I have the luxury of starting out a brand new rep.
No data.
No data. And so I don't have any legacy systems. And like I said, GridPlus is a technology company, and they keep telling me that no data is too much data. Mm-hmm. We'll see if that's the case. But essentially what we are going to do is build our business model around 15-minute data.
Okay.
Really driven by the need for blockchain, right? Or to build by blockchain. To build by blockchain, you need 15-minute data. So, like Kevin said, there are unfortunately a number of different data sets for the same meter for the same time period, which is a problem. Be that as it may, it's fixable, I hope, or certainly debatable. So we are going to insert ourselves in that process, and the first thing that we are doing, at least I'm doing, is getting us organized to accept that data, understand that data, realize what it means, and then compare it, the data streams. And then get it worked out, find the right answer. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of computing power, but like I say, my guys say they know how to do it.
Very good. Thank you very much. Next question, and this is a something. This is out of the Just Energy press release, I think. So one of the things I'll just go ahead and mention, it says capitalizing on its digital-first strategy, Sam's Club is the first retail partner where Just Energy's web presence will be integrated, allowing Sam's Club members to sign up at the Just Energy website. Now, how does the new digital-first strategy integrate with and transform the organization with this new expanding amounts of data? Jay?
But I think first for us is communicating with the customer and the method they like. So if you want to go online, we want to make sure we're giving you an experience that you appreciate. And I think that's what we're trying to do, seamless. Make it such that when you're at Sam's Club or wherever vendor you're partnering with, if you want to go from their site to our site, How easy can you make it? So that's the first thing. The second thing you're able to do, you know the profile of a Sam's Club customer there. So you have some of that information. Next, when they add their address. Now you have some premise information. Now you can start customizing the product. So now you're taking that data from the Sam's Club buyer profile, you got the premise data, you're putting that together and you start customizing your offerings. And if you know what they're buying as well, did they buy some air filters? Did they buy, a smart thermostat? Did they buy some air purifiers? You can start customizing the offerings there. And that's what we're really excited about. We're able to customize the offerings and what we call this de-averaging. So when you look at it, historically, you sort of say, hey, here's my average customer. Here's what it's going to look like. I'm going to get so many of these types of customers, so many of these. Let me come up with the average, and I offer that to everybody. And when you do that, you're profitable on some customers, and you lose on other customers. With this data, it allows us to now increase our chances of winning on all customers. And that's important for us. And I think by doing that, the customer gets a better experience, Just Energy gets a better experience, and we're delivering on that true long-term value. So that's what we mean by digital first, utilizing the data, providing the best customer experience, because we're thinking about the customers now. It's no longer thinking about us. What do customers like? What do customers want to see? And how do we make it easy for them? That's our goal there with that digital first strategy.
Gotcha. So pretty much making the customer segment of one. So
Yes.
each customer is unique in their own way. So Kevin or John, do y'all have anything to add to that?
I like the idea. That's where we're driving. What Jay's talking about is acquisition through adverse selection. And we are going to do everything we can to avoid that. It does cause anomalies both in our books and to the customer, as you say, because customers, the idea behind competition and deregulation is that they respond to price signals. Mm-hmm. So it's important that they know exactly what their cost is, and that way they can reflect on that and make changes if they wish. So it's important. Hard to do at the residential level, but possible.
Possible to do. Good. Thank you very much. This next question I have is, and it's directed at Kevin, but the others can chime in too. Shell is strategically focused on renewables and advanced automated demand response, as witnessed by their purchase of MP2. Community solar, rooftop solar, storage, and demand response play a big role in their strategic focus. So to manage, Kevin, to manage the solar resources effectively, it requires large amounts of weather data, pricing data, and of course usage data. So what are some of the challenges of managing and integrating those large amounts into your organization?
Well, the challenges go back to kind of what we talked about, Cade. It's the inconsistencies of the data. So we're looking at many other sources. When we move a new product to market, we look at we have to make some assumptions, right? There's a ton of data out there, no matter what market you're in. You've got the eligible customer list in Pennsylvania and places like that. So you can pull in a bunch of data, do some analysis, build the products, and start bringing it to market in a quick manner. And then you've got to step back and look at your portfolio as it comes online, and even carve out customers, right? Is this customer, do they have a 50% offset system versus an 80% offset? Do they have a storage device? Is it solar plus storage? Do they have an electric vehicle? And you start to compartmentalize these different customers and create programs around it. So the challenge is to be able to have all that data, right, and get it in and be able to analyze it. And to do that, we have our VP of IT. He keeps telling me every day pretty much, like, Kevin, this has to be an IT company. It's not just commercial. And I'm like, okay, I hear you, but there's a balance there, right? We can't be an IT company. So it's a struggle. It really is. It's we work with third parties to help us integrate some of that data and to look at it and do the analytics around it. Just because it's so much. It's like you said earlier. It's not a couple of points at the end of the month on a bill cycle getting one meter read, right? It's multiple thousands now, depending on what you're doing and what you're looking at. I recently integrated a storage device on my home, and it's the guys came in and it's like, well, what circuits do you want plugged into this thing? And I was like, what? Hold on a second, man. So it's very technical. It's very the points of data are extreme, and I think as more of these devices come online, as more people move in, as more customers want these products, it's only going to become larger and larger. So that's a struggle, right? And we're getting our hands around it pretty quickly. We're working with market participants, right? We're working with ERCOT here in Texas. We're working with the Public Utility Commission to help, make sure they understand what those struggles are. We just recently went through a contested case of getting third-party access to smart meter data, right? And so that was a long process. There were a bunch of parties involved. There was a bunch of differing opinions. But I think at the end of the day, everybody agreed what made sense, and we came to a balance. And so that's moving forward. So it's really just that's the challenge, but there are successes there as well, right? As you bring these products on, we've got net metering products, financially created net metering products here in Texas. There's no regulatory support for it in the market. We have value components for solar. We have solar plus storage. I mean, demand response. We're creating new products for demand response just based on data we have in house and what we're seeing customers want and what it really means to the system. So there's a grid resiliency aspect to it as well.
Very interesting. Thanks, Kevin. I guess with this scarcity pricing that's going to happen, I guess, or load this summer is going to be a good chance to use some of those products.
It'll be an interesting summer.
So, well, good. The next question I have is sort of in and around the with GridPlus, and this is something I've gleaned from the white paper that's out there. GridPlus is developing hardware software stack to create a secure Ethereum-enabled gateway to connect Internet of Things devices. The hardware gateway, or the smart energy agent, is Internet-enabled, always-on appliance that will be secure cryptocurrencies and process payments for electricity in real time. I guess the question is, you mentioned how valuable this real-time data would be, but having this smart agent in the home is going to put an extra amount of intelligence into the edge device. So I guess the question I have for you is, what are some of the challenges and some of the expectations around when this will be adopted throughout the market? So it's all sort of new for everybody on the blockchain, and so and I don't expect you to go into any technical details about how hyperledgers work. So
I will not do that. I can promise you. All right, so the model GridPlus and what it really works around and revolves around is what we call a smart agent. Smart agent is a device, which is what you're talking about, that goes in the home. The device will warehouse cryptocurrency for payment directly to us. It will also measure on a minute-by-minute basis, actually, the usage that the smart meter is measuring, assuming the smart meter is producing those results. It will also take feeds from the market, whether it be pricing first, and in the future, other variables besides just real-time price or day-ahead price. Might take ancillary prices. It might take grid constraint measurements, voltage support, whatever the case may be. So the theory behind having the device in the house is so that it bridges the gap between what we are getting now from smart meters, i.e. usage at midnight, to getting the data instantly or near instantly. And why do you want that? You're able to respond. And you're not looking back and trying to find out what happened. You're able to respond. In terms of, I look at this and I always ask myself, why hasn't this happened yet? Multiple reasons. Who knows which one is right? We all have our theories. Regardless, I think that what really makes a GridPlus and what will make the company successful is with understanding that the smart agent is really a tool to marry up with a retail contract or retail product that allows finally, the creation of a market where sellers can participate. And not only in deciding when to buy because of where prices are, but also deciding when to sell. And when you empower, obviously, people to that, or a market, I should say, to that effect, good things start to happen. So that's really where we're driving. In terms of when is it all going to be adopted, I don't know. We'll take a poll. But there's a lot of good things about it, a lot of good things to talk about. People that like green, they'll like this. You don't have to produce a megawatt to get a green megawatt. The greenest megawatt is one not produced. If you want to settle real time, you want your home to operate like an asset, get a reduction in cost for that. Some people will be on board, some won't. And then the other thought I have in mind is I remember when I was a kid and my dad would walk by my room. Of course, I wasn't in there, and my lights were on. And, of course, he'd yell at me and turn the light off. So in a sense, I think we're doing the same thing here. We're just talking to adults that own homes. And if they're not home, the question is, why'd you leave your air conditioner on? Or your pool pump, or whatever the case may be. And I think once folks start to let that settle in, it'll make sense, and hopefully so we can stop building generation. And I think we'll get some adoption.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to somebody taking over my pool pump at the house, because it just seems like it's always running, and I can go take it offline in the middle of the afternoon, and sure enough, somehow it gets back on. So,
Right.
So yeah, looking forward to that product. So,
I think just to add, I think the exciting thing about what John is talking about, you start thinking about like Uber, the original concept of, would anybody want to share their car, or Airbnb? Well, who's going to rent out their house? So you start going, that's a far-fetched idea, and then you see today, wow, it's no longer far-fetched. So the idea that, hey, if you have this retail contract and you bought this electricity and you're not home, hey, what do you want to do with it? Maybe you can sell it back. Now you have that control. So I think it is exciting what John's talking about there, that the adoption rate, while it might start off slow, I think it'll catch on like you've seen other of the connected society options connect on, like Uber, or I know it's a bad word in Austin, but the shared economy get Lyft, but Airbnb, I think that's the exciting thing.
very good. Thank you very much. Let's see. I guess we're going to have. I want to open it up to the floor here in a few moments. But I guess one question I wanted to go back and ask is of course we've seen that we've gone from a monthly bill to much more dynamic pricing. Blockchain we've talked about. What other kind of emerging technologies do we think that are out there that could help evolve over the next? And I'm not sort of looking a little bit further out. So we've talked, how it was 10 years ago, and then now it's going to be 2028 or something in the distant future. Do you see us evolving like the telco side or other industries? What is y'all's perception longer term?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So it's we're hearing a lot of microgrid conversations and energy as a service. So we work with, MP2 is primarily a large industrial, large commercial service company. So, a lot of these guys want to focus on their core competency, which is not necessarily energy. And so it's getting comfortable around how do you integrate all the services and manage it on their behalf, whether it's demand response or building the products and settling the data and all the pieces of the puzzle. And then other interesting concepts are just to carve out a section of a city, right? Whether it's in the Houston area or Dallas area, wherever it is in the nation, and create some sort of microgrid concept, right? And start looking at that and what does that mean to the grid, and how can you deploy those? So I think that's something to come. The energy landscape as from where we are right now in the next 5 or 10 years is going to be drastically changed, in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, thanks.
I think localized storage, I think as technology continues to advance, as costs continue to go down, I think you're going to see more, plug-in storage and maybe even batteries in certain devices, whether it's your refrigerator or other places that you can maybe use for other things. So I think we'll start seeing more of that coming forward. And then outside of that, the sky's the limit. But I think telecom with the cell phone, I don't think we'll get to the cell phone, but I do think we'll make it more convenient and easy for customers not to think about it. Like you think about geofencing. You get an alert saying I'm on my way home or something like that, so your house knows you're on your way home, so you like it at a certain temperature, it'll get started. Or you've left and it shuts down. So those types of things are making it more convenient and easy for folks. I think we'll see in the energy space, really, sooner rather than later.
Good. John, anything?
Right there. Yeah, two things. In terms of technologies, what's next? There's so much out there right now. And I've had folks come to my office for years, 10, 15 years, and oh my goodness, let me show you. We can show you what a meter looks like and the data coming out of it. And I would always say, okay, great. I see the data, I see it minute by minute. What are we going to do with it? Mm-hmm. And there was crickets. And so I think that there are things coming that are going to help us answer that question, which is going to be paramount in our new world. The second thing I would speak to is blockchain, and I'm sure all of you folks have heard about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. Those are all exciting, new, and different, but the technology that the crypto is built on, i.e. blockchain, is fascinating. I don't know that much about it, but I can see where, and I think a lot of other industries, banks, governments, money makers, whatever the case may be, understand its value. So I don't know. I can envision where if we're successful creating the crypto payment methodology, I can see where there would be other adopters, industries, water companies or gas companies or whomever, because at the end of the day, the price for power, gas, and water it's not that big of a bill. It's not a mortgage payment and insurance, etc. So, a lot of people pay it with a credit card. Well, do you really need to pay it with a credit? Do you need credit to pay the bill? And most people would say, no, I don't need credit. And if I can reduce their price accordingly so I don't have to pay for the credit card, then all of a sudden the cost goes down for all those goods. And as it goes down, it helps me from a cash flow perspective, bad debt perspective, etc. So I can see something like that expanding out into the other markets.
Yeah, okay, very good, thanks. Well, we have a couple of minutes left. Eric, did you want to have a question? Yeah, if you can over there, that'd be great. So.
Yeah, thanks for a great panel. I'm Eric DeRosier with ADL Ventures. So here's my question. How are you guys using data to get all of this great technology in the hands of more customers, particularly low-income customers? So I'm thinking new ways of financing these assets, new ways of billing for them, insuring them, and so on.
Okay, I'll start. Well, one of the things that we've done, we've created an app. We call it Energy Advisor app, which is accessible in the tree. For all customers who want to download it. And then by downloading it, it gives you advice. So just by plugging your data in, it's going to give you helpful hints and tips there, which are more important for your low-income providers out there. I think the second thing that we've also done is we've tried to help customers use less of our product. And so what I mean by that, we've given them energy efficiency devices. So LED light bulbs, smart thermostats, things like that to help them manage their costs better. So I think when we put those things together, we think that'll help out all segments, but especially that low income segment.
Yeah, so it's really just the visual, right? We don't have many low income customers, and many of the residential customers that we do have are all tied to either solar or storage or some unique concept from a retail product, right? So it's really getting them access to some sort of my account or portal or something where they can see their excess generation from their solar facility, right? Or kind of tying the whole picture, look at the annual shape. Where are you exporting more to the grid, and how does that product shape up across the summer? So that's really where we're focusing, of getting this data in the hands of customers so they can make better decisions. Do I need to deploy additional products, or what do I need to do to be more sustainable, or whatever they want to do.
Thank you. I just got the signal that we're out of time, so sorry if y'all have any questions, but I would like if y'all could all join me in giving a hand to our panelists for coming up here and sharing this. I appreciate it.